Alright, so you've selected to do the gears challenge for your UCall 104 project. What you see in front of you is all the equipment you'll be given when you show up in the Sloan 241 room. We've got a Lego motor driving a wheel, and we'll use that wheel to do some lifting. We've got some other gear setups, a spur gear assembly and a worm gear assembly. We also have the electrical power supply that's going to drive the motor, and the 2 meters that are going to take our measurements for us. And so what I want to do here is go through the electrical connections and how you make those, and draw some of the circuits that are associated with that. So we'll get started here. So the electrical circuit, basically we have the Lego motor that we need to drive. So the circuit we're going to draw actually looks like this. The symbol for a power supply, voltage supply, is usually a circle. We've got the switch on the power supply itself, and then what we want to do is we want to run it through a meter. And so the symbol for a meter that measures current would be a circle with an A. Then out of that meter it's going to go into the motor, and I'll just put an M here for the Lego motor, and out of there back to the power supply. So as you can see, this is a complete circuit. If this were a light bulb, this would be something you typically see in an introductory circuits class. So the meter is what we have to worry about because we want to measure the current that's passing through the circuit. Now we have one more meter we want to add, and it's a voltmeter here that connects on both sides. So it's going to measure the voltage supplied by the DC power supply, right? And then we're going to measure the current passing through the motor. So that's the circuit we want to create from the materials we've got. So let's go ahead and do that here. The first thing we want to do is set up the voltmeter to measure the voltage coming off the power supply. So on the power supply there's a plus sign and a minus sign. We want to come out of the plus and go into the V on the multimeter. Alright, let's go ahead, and then we also want to come out of the black off the power supply and into the common COM on the multimeter. Oops, sorry about that. Alright, so let's go ahead and set those two up. So red coming off the positive, so we're just going to clip it on right there. Take the other end. We're going to go to the voltmeter. This is the one we're going to use to measure voltage, so we're going into the V here. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and switch it. This is a DC circuit, so we're going to do the voltage with the flat line, so it's a constant DC source. Alright, so the second piece is coming out of the common. And then we want to go back to the power supply. And so that happens to be this one right here. We'll feed it back over here and get our connection made there. Alright, so that gets our voltmeter all set up. Now let's talk about the other pieces. Coming off the Lego motor, there's a connector that has 2 wires. So we're going to use these 2 wires here. One of them is going to come over here, one of them is going to connect right there, and the other one we're going to tie to complete the circuit. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a look at that wire first. And so that's this wire. It connects to the Lego motor, and it has 2 pieces. And so this wire, there's a little slot back behind the power supply, so we stick it in there and then tighten it down. And I have to rehook that, but put it in there and tighten it down. So one part of that wire is connected, and we'll restore this since it fell out. Alright, so that gets that piece in. Next piece, we want to come off the power supply on the red side, and we'll go ahead and clip to this. All we have to do is make electrical connections here, so making that connection right there is perfect. And here's the one we're doing. We're coming off the positive again, through here, and connecting to the 300 milliamp connector. Alright, so let me grab the other end of that, go into the 300 milliamps. While we're here, we'll set it to measure DC amps. Rotate it around, and so now we're pointing to the amps measurement, and it's flat line, so it's a DC measurement. Now our last connector is going to come from the common of this meter out and clip on to the wire going out to the motor. So we'll come off the common and come back and clip onto the other motor wire. So, looking at the circuit here, our intent was to go from the power supply out through the motor and back. And so we've done that. We've come off the power supply, through the ammeter, out of the ammeter, back to the wire that goes out to the Lego motor. It goes through the motor and returns on the other wire to the negative side. These are set up to measure properly. What you want to do here is go ahead and unplug the motor and flip the power on. This is where you can adjust the power on the voltmeter. You can read it on the screen here, but you can also look over on the meters. We're reading about 10 volts. You're not supposed to have it past 9, so I'm going to roll it down to 9 volts, and that's close enough. You won't have to change that again. So we shut this off, connect the wire back up to the Legos, and then we can power, and you've made your lift system work. So the next one we'll discuss the measurements as a part of the experiments.